the right mic? Do I have the right mic plugged in? Okay.
Hi friends, I feel like I haven't actually spoken to you guys in a while. My last couple of videos were photo walk compilations with footage from the past, so it was just me in editing land putting those together for you guys. But now I have the camera on, I'm looking straight into your singular eye attached to the front of my camera, and we're connecting. This is a moment.
That's a bit too hot.
Today we're going to be talking about some portraits that I've taken and why I like them. But first, I have a huge announcement, and there will be a timestamp of the video, so you can skip over this if you want. But I have finally released my Skillshare class about street photography. Hold on, let me look here for a second. Let me go to my master document for my Skillshare class. This is where I, put most of my planning. I'm gonna look at the date. February 4th, 2022 is when I created this document, which is a fairly good indicator of when I started planning this thing. So it's been a long time coming, a lot of work. I've grown a lot. Me and my wife have grown a lot. It's definitely affected our relationship. It is so much work to put together something like this. I've worked with a wonderful contact over at Skillshare, and she helped me kind of move through the process and make this into something, make this into what it was, and make it be something that fits well on Skillshare. I'm so excited to be done with it. I hit launch in a room in a lake house. Me and my family went to a lake house to hang, and I don't know how to take a vacation, so it was kind of a workcation. There's a room in the back, and it was a little office room that I really enjoyed being in while I was there. Now, in this picture, it's daytime, but when I posted this, it was nighttime because I posted it at like 10 o'clock or something. I forget the exact time, but I hit publish. I looked around the room because I wanted to take in this moment of hitting publish, and I wanted to remember where I was, and it was cool because I was in this room that I really loved. I was surrounded by my family, my wife, my daughter, and there it is. So I'm very happy to release it to you guys. It is over 2 hours of content. It's comprehensive. I go through beginners stuff. First, the exposure triangle. This is the exposure triangle. We have aperture, we have ISO, and we have shutter speed. Best gear to choose if you are shooting with your phone. Unless you order some parts from Russia or something, you're probably going to have less buttons and dials. But my friends, please remember, it is totally tight to go out with a phone. Or a potato if you just want to play pretend. I guess unless you order more parts from Russia. I go into how to find the action, like where to go to find good street shots, where to go to find the subjects you want and the environments that you want, how to interact with strangers on the street, how to compose photos on the street, how to edit your photos. We have the crop tool, and this just allows you to crop things. Although in this one, no crop needed. That does not happen all the time. There's a lot there, and I worked very, very hard on this. Whatever, I can't. Skillshare is a wonderful platform that I would encourage you guys to take advantage of, even if you're not utilizing my course. I have a link below that if you guys click it and use it, you will get 1 month of Skillshare for free. And so not only can you hop into my class if you would like, but you can hop into any number of other classes and learn other things. You want to learn animation? Go for it. You want to learn how to make a grilled cheese sandwich? The perfect grilled cheese, a mini class to master the sandwich. So there you go. Look at this one. Cuddly crochet, make your own amigurumi. So that's exciting. Gardening 101, a guide for growing and caring for plants. That seems nourishing for both the plants and you. Anyway, back to my class. If you're somebody who would like to go on a well-rounded journey of learning street photography, please feel free to check my class out. I really appreciate it. Okay, now let's talk about some photos. Okay, first we have this one that was taken in Atlanta, and the interaction behind this photo is actually the first moment of my introduction video for my Skillshare class. So there you go. This guy had a wonderful look. He was walking up to me, and I thought it would be really interesting to take his photo. And that the photos themselves would in fact be interesting. And they sure was. This guy was very friendly. He was very into it. And I happened, like I said, I haven't filmed in a bit. So he said yes, and I had to figure out where to put him very quickly. And we had this little roadway, and on the other end of that roadway was this very interesting parking garage, one of the more unique parking garages I've ever seen. And so I thought, okay, this would work, and there'd be some nice depth to the scene. And so plopped him there, and just very quickly trying to figure out where I could put him. Look, you can always look back at the interaction and think, okay, how could I have, zhuzhed this better? It could have been nice if I actually put him in the middle of the road. I don't remember how much traffic was there, though. Certainly don't want my subject to get hit by a car. But he stood there, very natural on camera. Once again, like I said, very interesting look. Love his hair, love his glasses, love the suit. I love people who dress well on a daily basis. Okay. So I put him here. The background behind him was not too cluttered. I think I put him in a spot where there wasn't too much going on that could distract from him as the subject. Nicely out of focus. I feel very, very good about that. But just a good, solid street fashion portrait, I think. I forget the lens I was using here. I'll put it up on screen. Oh, never mind. I found it. 50 millimeters. Can't go wrong. Nifty 50. But it was a bit of a tighter focal length, and so that created a bit of compression and got rid of some clutter in the environment, and so it turned out quite nice. And I like where he is in the frame and where, how the environment works around him. The light here was not something super special, but it was very adequate for what it needed to be. His face is nicely lit. It jumps off of the photo just a little bit. It's pretty soft light, which you really can't go wrong with. It would have been cool if this was, 7 p.m. crazy sunset light or something like that. But some soft light in a portrait really can't hurt you. And I can't remember if it was an overcast day that day, but it seems like it probably was. The shadows aren't super harsh. And so I like that. I like the quality of the light. So in this case, because he was such an interesting subject, there wasn't really much heavy lifting that had to happen with the other components of the photo. It just needed to put him in his environment, and ideally you have an interesting environment behind him, which I think we do. Not to say that you could not find a more interesting environment. I mean, there are a plethora of amazing environments. I'm sure we could put this guy on. It would be super awesome. But he really lifts a lot of the weight for the intrigue in the photo because of how interesting he looks. And he was a very friendly guy, and it was good to meet him that day. And thank you again for letting me take your photo, sir. Then we have this one taken in Hollywood Beach, Florida. And this one to me is just such a happy photo. It exudes, energy and liveliness. And a lot of that, of course, has to do with the expression on this guy's face. And he was that guy. He was very friendly. When I started taking photos of him, he immediately stretches his arms out to the camera and was very animated and just generally a very friendly guy. But also the scene around him, the colors, the palm trees, the beach, everything comes together to make this feel like a very happy and energetic photo. So it's helpful to think about how would you build this photo, right? If you wanted to create a happy and energetic photo, how would you build it from the ground up? Now, one of the cool things about street photography is that you can find those scenes, take your subjects and put them on those scenes. Sometimes those things come automatically. And what I mean by that is that this guy, I didn't know that I was going to take this photo this day, but sometimes you don't. And so that's the pro and con of street photography is you don't know what you're going to get on the con side, but that's also a pro. Another pro is that you can stumble upon really amazing moments like this, right? So he has this bright expression on his face. He has the light hitting him directly in the face, which kind of complements that feel. You can see the sun on his sunglasses. I'm glad he had sunglasses on and that he didn't burn his corneas that day. There's a trend so far of my subjects potentially being injured during the process. I haven't lost one yet, though, I will say that. But yeah, this beautiful morning light hitting him from the east here and all these colors lighting up. The red, the yellow, the green, the blue, the green on the palm trees. And Hollywood Beach has this long boardwalk, kind of like Venice Beach in California. And so I was able to place him right in the middle and then have the boardwalk just go off into the distance behind him. So it's a great place to put him as a subject. Now, depending on how busy the boardwalk is could determine how clean the background will look. In this case, it's very clean. But The good thing is that even if it wasn't clean going into the background, his head's right there. So you're able to block off some of that clutter. And also, I was using my 16 to 35 here, and this is a 30 millimeter focal length. So having him push back and it looking a bit more polished, it would have changed the way this felt. So I really like that I had a wider focal length here. These right there. It feels very personal and intimate. But one thing we can't overstate here is the subject himself. I could put all these other pieces in order, but his presence, who he is, how he expresses himself was a collaboration that had to happen to make this photo what it is. So thank you, sir. Nice to meet you. I hope you're doing well. Next, we have this one. And there are certain photos that are baked into my brain with a name attached to them. And it's not the name of the person, it's how I refer to them in the photo. And this is Pink Hair Guy. I also have Wheelie Guy. This is Wheelie Guy. There you go. Yep. Wheelie Guy. Anyway, this is Pink Hair Guy. And there are a lot of things that make this photo into what it is. And let's start with him. I mean, the expression on his face is fantastic. It's so piercing. It grabs you immediately. And I think the hair complements that aesthetic, right? So when you're scrolling and you come across this, it's like, whoa, okay. I love portraits that do that. And this is just what the guy did. A lot of times I'm really not giving my subjects much direction at all. And one of the reasons is that I want to see what they're going to do. Because a lot of times they will give me something very interesting. And I want to try to see what their authentic expression is. And if I need to guide them afterwards, I will, right? But generally my direction is something along the lines of just do whatever feels natural for you. And I want them to feel at ease, not feel like I'm expecting anything specific from them. Well, I love his dramatic stare. I don't know what happened to his eye, but that also complements this intensity feeling as well. And so he's great. Another thing that really helps this photo out is the background, the environment. And particularly this arch. This is Washington Square Park. It has a beautiful, huge arch, and turns out it's a great place to subframe a subject. This is an iconic spot in New York City, so I'm happy I was able to put that in there to give some context. Also, we have the fountain on the left shooting up, very nice, add some energy to the shot. I like the lighting, a little bit stark, not too aggressive, but a little bit stark. Really helps out his face. His eyes are a little bit darker as well. I shot this with my 24 to 70 millimeter f4. Sadly, it is no longer with me. You can see it served me well here. I shot this at 57 millimeters. It's a little bit tight, a little bit of polish. Now, it would be interesting to know what would happen if I shot this at like 30 millimeters. How would that change the feel of the photo? Something to think about, but also something like 85 millimeters. Here you get what you tend to have with around 50 millimeters, which is a nice balanced photo. And what I mean by that is nice balance between the subject and the environment in terms of the presence, the compression. And there's a ton of symmetry in this photo. You have, well, his face, which is fairly, we tend to have symmetrical faces more or less, not scientifically, but, general, from a distance. You have the arch, which is symmetrical, and then you have his straps, which are also symmetrical. There's an asymmetry with the fountain. Maybe I should have photoshopped it, but on the other side as well. But I don't do that. Nothing wrong with a little asymmetry, but there's a lot of symmetry in this photo, and it balances it well. So this, to me, is such a unique, serendipitous kind of photo. This guy actually approached me. I was taking photos and asked me to take a photo of him. And so he came to me, and we just happened to meet in this location and create what we have here. In that moment, you can know some things about how the photo might turn out. But when you look at the final photo here, there's just something about it that is so electric, so...
What the French call a certain... I don't know what.
Okay, next we have this family on one of the bridges. I always get them mixed up. I think it's the Brooklyn Bridge. One of the things I love so much about this photo is the personalities captured and the juxtaposition of these people who are in a family unit together. We have on the left this guy who has this like super hard look, just like, staring into the camera, no flourish. Then next to him, his daughter, which is just cheesing, and she's just, super expressive. Her hair's in her face. You can tell she's kind of wild. And then you have the mom. I'm assuming this is the dad and the mom. You have the mom over here, and she's just giving a nice little smile, and she's holding the whatever that is there. Like a hat with some juice in it or something. And you can tell they're just having a nice day as a family. But I love the dynamic, the the juxtaposition of people. You have all the elements that are on them and around them, their clothing, the flower, the headband, his necklace, his tattoos, his shoes, everybody's shoes, the scooter. It's such a mosaic of visual intrigue. And then you have the environment, which is them on this bridge. Now, as you can see, it was a cloudy day, and different times of day, different light, different weather conditions would have changed this photo tremendously, especially since we were in direct light. In this case, we have some nice soft light, and I found that it's hard for me at least to go wrong with that type of dynamic. Sometimes you can get photos that feel a little dull, but I've gotten pretty comfortable editing photos with that type of light over the years. But yeah, I mean, would be cool to recreate this with evening light and see how it goes and see if the sky's more pronounced. And oh my gosh, like a sunset, one of those beautiful New York City sunsets. That would be fun. But once again, a much wider shot. I'm shooting at 36 millimeters here. Once again, 24-70. Thank you for your service. I could have maybe backed up, pushed in, and could have changed the photo a little bit. Wouldn't necessarily be better or worse, just would have been different. But I do like the wide angle feel. I feel like what came out of this was a really unique, but also kind of quintessential New York City street portrait. And I really appreciate that these people allowed me to take this photo, and it was cool how it worked out. Okay, then we have this guy. This was in New Orleans, and this was a very friendly guy I spoke to for a little bit. And this is a very simple street portrait in a lot of ways, but there's some things about it that make it very strong for me. And one is the person, the subject. Two is the light, this really nice light on the side of his face. And then I should say, to go back, let's go 1.5. We'll do 1 and then a sub bullet for the subject, and that is his eye. He has a very interesting left eye, and the light is hitting that left eye very nicely, and it makes the eye just jump out. And I'm so close to him here. It's such a tight shot. Let me look at the focal length here. It is 50 millimeters, so 50 millimeter f1.8. Can't go wrong. Nice and tight 50 millimeters, very personal, very engaging. You're connecting with this guy. It doesn't really matter where he is. You can tell just enough to know that he's in some sort of environment. It's not just a completely white background, which can kind of still keeps it on the street, right? But it is you and this guy, and this nice little splash of light on his face and on that eye, and the eye having that little birthmark on it pulls you in directly to the eye. How do you connect with somebody better than looking at their eyes, right? And so it really allows you to spend a moment with this random fellow who may live on the other side of the world from you. And then you can explore the photo and learn more about him. Also, another touch is he has a mask on here, and so you can tell this was taken during the COVID era. And I have a kind of a turbulent relationship with the masks. As I look back at a lot of my photos, I wish they were not there. When I was taking the photos, I was trying to keep the context of the moment, of the historical moment. In this case, the presence of the mask, it's not intrusive, it's just kind of there, gives you a sense for the historical moment, but also it's just a component of the photo. It's not pervasive. And I mean, my goodness, why would we block this beautiful mustache, which most likely has magical powers? I'm glad I had this photo. It reminds me of my short interaction with this random fellow that I came across who was very friendly. You know, it's a reminder that everybody you run into makes a little impression on you, and you make a little impression on them, and you get to choose what that impression is going to be. Next we have this one. This was taken in Arizona, and there was a girl who was had a very interesting style and very interesting accessories, and she was also very friendly, kind of a quiet type. We actually spent a fair bit of time together. We ended up we found another guy, ended up walking over to a protest that was happening at that time. So anyway, I was in Phoenix, found this girl, started taking some photos, and this was one of the photos I took, which was, I cut off her face and just showed kind of her body and all of the things that were going on. She had this notebook, which was strapped in a belt, and there's so much intrigue in a notebook, right? You go, what is, and it says, I think it says personal on it, right? So it's like, you see that notebook and go, oh my gosh, her whole life is in there, right? But then you have this interesting belt and her clothes and the accessories, her gloves and the rings and everything, and her hands together. There's just, I like the mystery in this photo as well, though. I like not showing everything about my subject a lot of times. And I think that can create more intrigue. That mystery creates more intrigue and causes the mind to wander and go, okay, well, who is this person? So I could have even gotten closer. I may have, I forget, but I could have even gotten closer just on the hands and maybe just some of the notebook or whatever. I have a picture of a girl's fingernails, just her hand with her fingernails in Houston. And I love stuff like that. I love all of that mystery. I love that you get to build your perception of this person based on just this little detail about them. Another thing about this technique is it's a good way, if it's applicable for your situation, to shake up a portrait. We can take face photos all day long, and that's great. It's a face. It's hard to deplete the value of a face. But if you can find ways to, take photos of different details of a person, any way to shake up the angle, the perspective that we're going to have of your subject, that can be helpful. So I like this photo. Next, we have this guy in Hawaii. He was a fisherman, and that you might think, oh, this is not really a street portrait, but aha, we were in a town, okay? I was on the edge of a town, and it doesn't have to have a skyscraper in it to be a street portrait. So this was right on the edge of the town. There were rocks shooting out into the ocean. This guy came out and he was fishing with his net. One of the things I love about this photo is all of the context contained in it, right? You have the subject, you have him interacting with a fish, showing his expertise with a fish. So, okay, clearly this guy deals with fish. You have a bowl that looks like something from the Stone Age with a fish in there and fish all around it. And so you see, okay, this guy catches fish. This is a fish catching individual. Then you have his net coming in on the side, just a little touch. Then you have the net on the side, just a touch of net. And then of course you have the background, the ocean. This is where he's interacting with these fish. And you have the expression on his face. There's just so much here that pulls together a narrative about this fellow and where he's at and what he's doing and what he does. I have always loved a good environmental portrait. And sometimes I found it to be difficult to build out a really compelling environmental portrait in a city or in a town. A lot of times the person is, they're just moving from point A to point B, or maybe it's hard to find a lot of components to put together to tell that type of story. That's why it helps to go to things like skate parks, right? Because you have a skater in a skate park skating. But really good environmental portraits often contain a fair bit of planning beforehand to get all the pieces in place, even though they don't have to, because I think there are plenty of photographers who have just stumbled upon really beautiful moments. But anyway, I found that it can be hard to craft a really compelling environmental portrait that has all the elements that I would like to see in an environmental portrait. But this is a good example of when it does work, because you have a compelling subject, you have a compelling scene, you have all the pieces of the puzzle are here to create this visual symphony for us to engage with and learn from, all in one moment. Oh crap. Hold on, camera died. Oh boy. We're back. Well, that was just a situation. Then we have this beautiful evening light. I love it when the light edits my photo for me, But, of course, something to think about here is, what if it was on the other side hitting the front of him? That would have been nice. But I think if the circumstances are right, you can backlight your subject and get away with it. And I think this is an example of that. I think it still works with his face in the front of him in the shadow. But anyway, I'm out of words now.